This is the Milo Beasley Show. This is the Milo Beasley Show. There's only one thing you need to know. This is the Milo Beasley Show. And now, here's your host, Milo Beasley.
And welcome to the Milo Beasley Show, episode number 369. And we have a good one for you today, especially those, I know I have a lot of friends out there who are looking to get into acting in the first place. So this is going to be a great episode to watch or listen to. So with no further ado, please help me welcome at this time, Geoffrey Blake. How are you today?
I am most excellent, Milo Beasley. How are you?
I'm doing good. I just got back from Richmond, Virginia for a comic convention. Had a great weekend. So and now I'm talking to you, so it's even better.
Cool, man. Cool. Well, welcome. Hello. Nice to meet you.
So one thing that I wanted that really brought you to my attention was your work online and your coaching and your website, the Working Actor Studio.
Yes, sir.
I mean, I think that's fantastic. How did you get started on that, going from being a working actor to an acting coach?
Yes, blessed to still be very much of a working actor. That 40 years of a fantastic career. I've had great being one that everybody has intent to live.
Right.
And before that, I was a wonderful Peggy Fury at the Loft Studio in Los Angeles and in New York, and both Larry as well, Los Angeles and New York. And it was literally a product of the pandemic. I've always had a keen interest of I love actors. I love teaching acting. I love the craft of acting. I love the discipline of the craft of acting. And so I thought it would be to be in service to young actors or old actors or actors that just want to dive deep into the craft of acting, want to have a career, want to make it accessible to them to understand that if you put in the work, you can get work. And so, the Working Actor Studio was created online. I still teach online. I have students from across the world, across the United States, Canada, England, Australia, France, Buenos Aires, and every city, small city and town in America. So I just started teaching one acting class that developed into 2, 3, 4, 5. I do teach pretty much a method-based teaching, also with Adler-based as well. If you're looking for a light, fluffy, how do I become a TikTok influencer, I'm not the person for you. But right. If you're interested in really having a sustainable acting career, really diving deep, I've been an actor for 42 years. I've been in, some of the greatest movies of all time. So that's not just happenstance. That's from really knowing what you're doing and, learning every day. You always learn as an actor, 24 hours a day. You can be learning. I have a passion for it, and I pass it on, and my the members of my studio become very close. They're a very strong community, and they're all working. So that's the proof in the pudding.
That's great. I'm sure the feeling that you get whenever one of your students books their first job, that's got to be the best feeling.
Yeah. Just last week. She's been with me for a bit, and she's an actress up in Spokane, and she booked her very first gig, and it was ironic that she ended up having her scene with an actor friend of mine named George Newbern, who I've known forever, and we've done several things together. We did Graham, we did something else together, and we've kind of started our careers at the same time, and have each other and been colleagues for. It's a small business. I mean, people think that it's this big, unattainable business, but it's not. But once you are in the business, you realize that, I talk to my colleagues every day. I mean, Dermot Mulroney, we met on Young Guns. We spoke this morning. That's just the way it is, and that's now happening for my younger actors.
That's fantastic, and I do love George. I absolutely love George. I love his work, and he's a great guy. I got a chance to chat with him a little while ago, a couple years ago at a convention.
Yeah, I I'm surprised we haven't run each other at conventions. I do those too. So
that's it's such a great little world. Now you did mention that again. You're still a working actor, and even with your past work, you've done, as you said, some of the biggest movies of all time, and one of those, of course, is Forrest Gump. Is that the first movie that people want to talk to you about?
I don't. Yeah, it's one of them. I mean, there's a few. Forrest Gump is one. Young Guns is another one. It was kind of a iconic splash of Western. Kind of saved the Western in an interesting way. So I'd say with the two. But I'd say yes. I would say certainly Wesley, the hippie boyfriend in Forrest Gump, is probably the most iconic role I played and the most iconic film that I've played. So yeah, and happy to talk about it. It was a wonderful experience, and I've been fortunate to do 3 movies with Tom Hanks, and could not be a greater example of a diplomat of acting.
So you did Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, and Castaway.
Yes.
Forrest Gump was first, right?
Yes, that was exact lineage. That's an exact order. I think it was Forrest Gump, Apollo 13, Castaway. I think that that is the order in which they were. So,
did working with him in Forrest Gump help get casted for those other roles, or was that completely independent?
Oh yeah, no, I mean I did 3 movies for Robert Zemeckis. I did Forrest Gump, then I did Contact, and then I did Castaway. And Castaway was a much larger role when we were shooting it. The entire first act was basically myself and Helen Hunt and Tom and Chris Noth, and the entire first act was cut. We shot it, but it was completely cut because Bob decided that he wanted to start the movie in the airplane, and the first act was in the FedEx facility, and Tom deciding whether he's going to go away for Christmas or he's going to take this flight, the conflict of being away from Helen's character, and me pushing him as his boss, and all that. None of that's in the movie, but so no, happens. But it's great. I'm just a mysterious boss at the very end of the movie. Like, and who's that guy? And why is he here? But that's okay.
That's pretty interesting. I wonder if there's an extended version.
No, I couldn't imagine there being. It wouldn't service what ended up being the end of product, so I doubt it.
Like a Zack Snyder cut of.
I don't think there's anything exploding or anything. So no, I don't.
But going back to Forrest Gump and your role as Wesley, and there's a lot of iconic scenes in that movie, but your scene and the black, sorry to ruin your Black Panther Party line that Forrest gives, that's a huge scene. Did you realize at the time that it was going to be such an iconic scene in a movie that had other iconic scenes?
I think we knew, and I think Bob even may have said it in our first get together of cast and crew. I think he knew that it was either going to be a gigantic, iconic film for the ages, or it was going to be a complete tire miscue flop. And they made a great film, and the script was great. Eric's script was great, and Tom was all in, and Robert was all in, and Gary was phenomenal, and Robin was incredible. And Sally Field was incredible. It just all came together, and it seemed to be the right film for the right time, and the right antidote, and and a very interesting way to talk about the the things that have happened in American history.
Absolutely. I mean, it's super iconic. It's still talked about. It's still shown. They created a restaurant from scratch
Yeah.
about the
I
movie.
joke, whenever when that was the height of it, I used to if I went into one when I was traveling, I don't really eat the kind of food they serve, but I would ask for an employee discount for sure.
That's fantastic. Again, another movie that we talked about was Apollo 13. I am super into living in Central Florida. I'm super into the whole space thing. And now you're a SoCal guy. And did it get you involved into space stuff?
Yeah. Well, Ron's I don't know what it was with him, with Ron Howard. He's a very detail-oriented director. So the set I was one of the mission control guys. The guidance control officer was his name, and was his title. And so the set was so specific and so period, and was exactly to the T what mission control was. So we actually we went through we rehearsed, and we went through the entire mission day by day in a rehearsal space, and we had a lot of the original mission control guys who were on the flight, and the guy and the Gene Grant and Lovell and all the astronauts as well, the real guys. So we spent a few weeks with them before we shot a single frame, and dove deep into understanding how all these monitors work, what these buttons did, how they, we were fully immersed at that point into everything that was NASA. To this day, a lot of them, I literally just had dinner last week with two of the cast members who were part of Mission Control, and there's even a group of plug this in, so I wasn't planning on using it. There's a group of men that they call themselves the girls of Apollo 13, and they were all mission control guys, and they meet every week for lunch. Still, I pop in every now and then, and to this day, many of those actors are still my dearest friends in Hollywood. So from Xander Berkeley and Ray McKinnon and Googie Grass and Ned Vaughn and Andy Milder and the who's who and Ed Harris, and those guys were iconic. So it was really we kind of joked in those days, if you are a white male actor of a certain age in Hollywood at that particular time and you weren't in Apollo 13, then your agent was doing something very wrong. I mean, there were a lot.
Yeah, there was a lot of. I mean, obviously with that there was a lot of roles. So,
and also Jane Jenkins was the casting director, and Janet Hershenson, and they to this day they were great supporters of all of us. I ended up doing Frost Nixon for them as well, with Ron Howard, and same a lot of us same guys who were in Apollo 13. So pretty much when Ron decides to do history movies, we tend to be in them.
Do you tend to like some of those historical type?
I put in a lot of them. So Young Guns is historical.
Right, absolutely.
I did a 10-hour miniseries a few years back called Texas Rising, with ironic Billy Paxton, who was in Apollo 13. He kind of was kind of the reason I was in the miniseries. He played Sam Houston. I played his literally right hand man. He was a general. I was a colonel, of a real guy. And so I tend to have done a lot of history pieces. I played John Ford in Midway, the iconic director. So that's another history piece. Frost Nixon, history piece. Apollo 13, history piece. Forrest Gump, in a certain way, is a history piece.
Right.
I played a lot. I played Kenny O'Donnell the chief of staff of John F. Kennedy on Godfather of Harlem, also a history piece, also a true story. So, and even on a non-true story, even on DC Legends of Tomorrow, I played Elvis Presley's uncle. So, I've played a lot of real people in a lot of real situations.
Now, you talked about method acting earlier.
Yes.
When you're doing these historical pieces, how much research do you personally do?
A ton.
A ton.
Particularly particularly with the real guys. I mean, I did it's the reason I certainly got Midway, because Roland Emmerich appreciated the fact that I knew everything about John Ford when I came into the audition. He goes, "You were the only guy who brought a pipe." And John Ford, notorious, was famous for carrying a pipe, and he either smoked a cigar or he smoked a pipe, and he used to use the pipe as a viewfinder. I am a method actor, so I had also was the only person who bothered to research what he sounds like, and so I came in with John Ford, Upper East Coast, slightly Irish, but also slightly Boston, but it's actually a Maine, Ireland, but his parents were actually Irish. So he had a bit of a lilt to his voice, very deep, because he smoked cigars and drank whiskey. So that goes into the research as well. And Kenny O'Donnell was the opposite. He was, Kenny O'Donnell, who was John F. Kennedy's chief of staff. He had a different kind of accent, because his isn't really a Boston accent as much as it's much of a Kennedy accent. They have a very specific Kennedy accent. So,
that's interesting. You go into these roles, these auditions, not just as let me just audition and get this, but like you're really going.
No, yeah, and it's what I teach as well, and why my actors work is because the misnomer of acting for most people who are not trained is that they think that all they need to do is just get the sides and figure out how they would say it. It's the sides or whatever. Acting has nothing to do with the lines. It's not about the lines. Acting is about the life, and the actors you love create the life of the character,
right?
And they create the behavior of the character. They create the look of the character. They create the time of the character. They create what that character wants, what they really want. And there's a difference usually between what they want and what they really want. And then they also create how they're going to get it. And that's the misnomer of the untrained actor. And particularly in this day and age, the young actor tends to, they don't really want to be actors. They want to be famous. And there's a difference between being famous and being an actor. So being an actor, I can remember recently that I had met with an agency, and the agent had said to me, which to me was the supreme compliment. He said, I recognize every single one of those characters from every one of those movies and television shows. I just wasn't aware it was the same actor who played. That was a supreme compliment.
That's a heck of a compliment there.
Well, it's not a compliment as much as it's how I'm trained. It's what I do.
Right.
My favorite actors are perfect. Speaking of that 10-hour miniseries, the Texas Rising. One of the cast members of the Texas Rising was Brendan Fraser, and spending 10 minutes with Brendan was fantastic. But to see Brendan's work in The Whale is brought tears to my eyes. He was phenomenal. And the reason he was phenomenal is because he took all of the pain and all of the hurt of his journey, of his life, and transposed that into Charlie. And you could not take your eyes off of him. And his emotions were real. His sadness was real. His culpability was real. The price he paid was real. The tragedy of his gay life with his lover and losing his love, it was so real and so grounded and so. The moment that he turned to the camera and turned to the thing and said, I just want to have something that I'm proud of in my life, something that I left behind that's important, or something like that. And I turned to my wife and I said, you just won an Oscar for that, because that was one of the most grounded, authentic, pure moments I've seen in a long time.
Absolutely.
So,
I got to work with him a couple of times at conventions, and I mean, just the most authentic, nicest guy. So
Yeah,
I was
he's a
super,
great guy.
super happy
Lovely,
to see
lovely,
his
lovely
success.
man. Yeah,
In
and
the
we bonded during Texas Rising because we were surviving this miniseries. It was quite a torrential experience. I can just say that.
in the opposite realm of real,
Mhm.
I have to ask. I have to and ask about one of my favorite TV shows of all time. What was it like working on Alf?
What was the character? I think my character's name was Lizard. Is that what
Yeah,
it is?
Lizard.
It was a long time ago. I do remember it was just bizarre. That's what it was, because it was built. It was built on a set that was built like 6 or 7 feet off the ground. So it was this platform stage, and there were trenches everywhere. So you had to walk along. You had to make sure you didn't fall into the trenches, and so that Alf would, the puppeteer would walk
Right.
along underneath, and so you'd be, following Alf around. So it was definitely a trip. I don't think I ever saw it. I got to tell you, I'm not sure I ever saw Lizard's incarnation, but I had fun. I do remember that, but I don't remember. Was that the '80s? So
Yeah.
as they say,
Late 80s, early 90s. Yeah.
yeah, late early '90s. Yeah. So as they say in those days, if you were working in the late '80s and the early '90s, and you actually remember it, you probably weren't there. But that.
Is it weird working with puppets? Have you done other jobs where you're working with non-human actors?
Yeah. I actually, yes. I remember being in class once with Larry Moss, who's still to this day one of the greatest acting teachers ever, and a great influence on my career and my craft and my teaching, very much so. I can remember one time being in class, and I was doing a scene with actually my wife. Still to this day, my wife, lovely. She was an actress, and she's now a very successful writer. But we were doing a scene from Tennessee Williams' Vous Courez, which is one of Tennessee Williams' later plays, but a brilliant, raw, gut-wrenching play about a male street hustler in a boarding house in the wrong part of New Orleans, hot, sweaty, kind of a pimp, kind of a hustler, works in a strip club, blah 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 blah, and he's holed up in this heat of summer of New Orleans, which is so oppressive, and he's held up in this room, and he's with this kind of fallen socialite from the East Coast who's dying of some sort of blood disease, and they're holed up there, and it just oozes of sex and drugs and violence. One of the girls had just been eaten by these dogs, by this mafioso. I mean, it's really intense. And so I went to this place and was, literally he was coming off of heroin, and I was shaking and crying. I was naked, full naked in front of class, and just as raw of a performance as I've ever given. And I finished it, and Larry was like, "Oh, that's just wonderful," blah 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 blah, that he does. And I said, "Well, that's great, Larry, but okay, so how do I process this? How do I transfer this? Because bring this to my work." And I said, "Because tomorrow morning at 6 a.m. out at some reservoir, an hour and a half outside of Los Angeles, up in the Grapevine, I'm going to be spending the entire day working with a mechanical monkey, a gorilla named Mighty Joe Young." So, and how do I translate this kind of work into that? And he had the most wonderful answer. He said, "You don't." That's what he said. You don't. You show up, you get paid, you put on the costume, you work with the monkey, and that's what you do. So that one has nothing to do with the other. But that was also a Bill Paxton movie. So
Right.
That's Billy Patton, this young, unknown South African actress who was 22 years old, named Charlize Theron, and another unknown actress named Regina King. I think she was maybe 25.
Whatever
Yeah,
happened to them?
no, nothing really. Great gals, by the way, both of them.
Now you are being a, a Southern California guy, a SoCal guy.
I'm
I
really
graduated.
not actually. I'm not a SoCal guy. I just lived here. I go. My roots are on the East Coast, and then I grew up in all over the world, really, and just ended up landing down here, and with a lot of us did, and a lot of us, you know, we ended up. Some of us went to the University of Southern California BFA program, of which we then left after 2 years, and we all migrated over to Peggy Fury's class, which was the Loft Studio at the time, which is an offshoot of the Actors Studio. So Peggy was going to take over for Lee Strasberg, but she ended up having a tragic car accident. But that class was, that was me and Forrest Whitaker and Sean Penn and Chris Penn and Nicolas Cage, Michelle Pfeiffer, Meg Ryan, Kira Sedgwick, Tom Shadyac, who ended up being a comedy director, Eric Stoltz, Jennifer J. Lee, I believe, was there for. It was a pretty incredible group of young actors, all in one class, all studying the craft of acting really deeply. So,
Yeah, that's an
yeah,
incredible class.
yeah, and that's just a few. I'm leaving a lot out. Those are
I was gonna say, as being attending USC and living in Southern California, are you inundated with the SoCal sports scene there?
Yeah, I'm a diehard Dodger fan. I bleed blue for sure. I went to USC, so obviously USC football is back. Always
Right.
loved the Lakers. For a while back in Danny Manning days, I had, when it was at the Sports Arena, I had some Clipper season tickets. And I'm a big sports fan. But I gotta say, I to this day, I try not to miss a Dodgers game. I try to, the only time it bumps me out is when I'm like up in Vancouver shooting something. They don't, they only know about hockey. So it's
Right. Oh, right. Yeah. I think they have basketball now. No, not
no,
yet.
not in Vancouver. They have a Canadian football team. Forget what their names are, but it's orange, and I bought my kids. I remember when they were younger. I think I bought them whatever, the BC Lions. That's what they are. Yeah, I bought them a black and orange
Right.
BC Lions looking, snow hat. So, but yeah, sports are a big part of my experience in life. I used to, when they were young, I coached them in baseball too. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm huge into baseball. I'm going to living in Central Florida. I'm going to go to opening day for the Rays this
There
week.
you go.
How do you let's switch to a little bit of a sports talk, baseball talk. How do you think the Dodgers look this year? Have you been following?
I think it's all a master plan. I think we've shed. Last year was supposed to be the year that we were just going to dominate, run all the way through the playoffs. Should not have lost a game. Blah 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 blah. And I think it was a bit disappointed. I think the Trevor Bauer nonsense, threw it off track a little bit. I think certainly Bueller getting hurt and having to have the surgery, another thing that threw us off. Cody Bellinger learning how to hit anymore. I think here's what I'd tell you. What I think the plan is. I think right now this is going to be a season that I think the San Diego Padres will probably win the division because they spent a shit ton of money, and I think the Dodgers are shedding salary, and we're going to get to see Vargas, we're going to get to see Ottman, we're going to get to see all those great prospects that have been down in the best farm system in baseball, and our pitchers are going to become. This is going to be Urias is top. He's going to be our number one. We're going to have all of these young arms that are going to come back. Bueller will come back halfway, and then what is really happening? They shed Turner. They shed all of those guys. They didn't re-sign. They didn't re-sign our shortstop. They didn't retire. And the reason I believe that is because I guarantee you, mid-season we will have Shohei Ohtani.
Oh, big prediction.
Yep, I think it's all to get Shohei Ohtani.
I didn't.
And I think Shohei Ohtani is going to be the biggest contract in baseball history, and the Dodgers are going to have. They're going to have the money and the space to do it.
100%. Did you watch the World Baseball Classic?
Yeah, I loved it. Every second. I loved it. I loved that final game. It was amazing.
Yeah, I watched even like those random Korea versus Italy
Yeah,
type things. Like,
but mark my word. I tell you, Shohei Ohtani will be a Dodger.
all right, so we've heard it. We've heard it here first. A thing I want to do now is go into what I call the Milo Beasley Show frequently asked questions, and these are going to be the same.
I like the
5
graphic.
Oh, thanks. This is going to be the same 5 questions that I asked to all my guests. So,
Okay.
question number 1: what was the first concert you ever attended?
Day on the Green, Northern California. Bill, whatever his name, presents Styx, Journey, Atlantic Rhythm Section, Heart, and Queen, all in one day. All in one day. Queen was the headliner.
I don't know how you follow that. Like, what's your second like? How
No,
do you...
that was Bill. It was Bill Graham Presents. It was called Day on the Green, and it was like a concert series. They had him every year. They had these 4 or 5 concerts during the summer. It was at Oakland Coliseum, and you sat on the field. And so that was the series of Day on the Greens that Bill Graham Presents.
That is amazing. What a great lineup.
Yeah, it was pretty great. Heart was great. There was other. I think I'm missing one other band, but I don't remember who they were.
I've seen.
Oh, I do know. It was Foreigner. The other one.
Oh, Foreigner.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what a great lineup. I have been lucky enough to see Heart in concert, and I do have a Nancy Wilson pick that I
Cool.
caught in the crowd. So it was super. I thought that was super awesome. All right, question number 2: do you believe in ghosts?
Unfortunately, I do. Yeah, I've been visited by many. I had open heart surgery about 5 years ago, 6 years ago, and during the process of open heart surgery, they shut your heart down, so you're literally living for 6 hours without a heart, basically. And I'm really spiritual, and I've been very in touch with spirits through my whole life. And I don't believe in religion, but I do believe in spirituality. To me, organized religion is war, and spirituality is love. So during that particular period where my heart was stopped, I truly believe that some, what I would say, energy, some lost souls, what you would call ghosts. I do believe that they actually entered my soul, and they entered my body, and so I still have, on rare occasions, I still have these very, very specific, very graphic nightmares that these souls visit me. And my wife tells me I scream, and this the other night. Hopefully they're gone. The other night we did a tradition or a ritual that's called a sound bath. And you go into this intense space, and they play these incredible sounds, and you meditate and you meditate and you meditate. You do a lot of breath work, and you allow whatever happens to happen. And in that particular sound bath, all of these souls kept visiting me and visiting and visiting me, and I was just like screaming at them to leave me alone, leave me alone, leave. And I think they might have. I think the conscious energy of all the energy that was in that room with these hundreds of people might have finally allowed one of them to latch on to something to take to. It sounds incredible, but it's true, to take to the other spirit world and to get out of me. So okay, you want exactly that intensive an answer. So yes, I deeply believe in ghosts.
Well, it sounds. I mean, not. I don't personally feel like I've had like that where I have something inside me, but I do have very vivid dreams about an entity or something being there, which often does also result in me yelling and screaming.
Yeah, well, it is. I mean, I believe that we as humans are, when we go, it's just energy, and our energy goes somewhere else. And so that what you're experiencing are those energies that have been trapped here and haven't quite gone there. That to me, that's what I think is the metaphysical explanation of ghosts.
That's a great explanation. All right. So in a twist on a common question,
Yes.
in a movie about your life, who would play your parents?
Looks wise or acting, who would I want to play my parents?
Right.
Looks wise, my father would have been Fred Gwynn. And my mother, Mary Tyler Moore. The Mary Tyler Moore in Ordinary People, not the Mary Tyler Moore in the comedy. Yes.
That's a good combination. I like it.
Yeah.
Question number 4. Who was your first celebrity crush?
My first celebrity crush. I don't know. Let me think about that. Depends on how old are we talking? Crush or kid crush or what?
Yeah, like kid, like the first time that you saw like a celebrity and was like, oh, they're pretty.
Dorothy Hamill.
Okay.
Yes, I do vividly remember thinking Dorothy Hamill was really cute.
That's a good answer. I don't think I've had that one before, so I like it.
Yeah.
And then the last question. This is going to be interesting because the way that you come off is super professional. So this next question is, whether it's on a movie set or at a studio or something, at a convention, what's your biggest fanboy moment where you saw somebody and you were just starstruck, you couldn't speak, or you spoke way too much, you stuck your foot in your mouth and you wandered off going, maybe I shouldn't have said that?
I don't think I've ever really had one. Let's see. I do remember this is a fan moment. It's a sports related one actually.
Okay.
And it was like a moment. It was like an actor moment that like made me feel like, wow, that was, and I remember calling my mom, Mary Tyler Moore, right afterwards. So I was on the very first episode because I didn't get the lead because I tested for the lead. So I ended at the booby prize was I got to be in the very first episode of 21 Jump Street with Johnny Depp. And it was a big icon. I mean, it was a big, if you remember, you're probably too young, but at the time,
I remember.
It was a big social phenomenon. It was a very big time, big time. It was in, Time Mag, everything. It was a big, iconic pop culture moment. And so I was at a club. I was at a workout club in Marina Del Rey, and I was working out, I think I was actually playing racquetball. And I'm not a big workout guy, never was, but I was coming down the stairs and it was in the height of the Lakers Boston Celtics rivalry, right?
Right.
And Magic Johnson was coming up the stairs and he had a game that night. It's obviously he had a game that night on the stairs.
Right.
And I turned to him and I said, "Oh my God, Magic Johnson, you kick some ass tonight, man. Kick some ass." Everybody said, "Oh, thank." And then he stopped right after he passed me and turns around and goes, "Wait a second. Jump Street," is what he says to me. And I go, "Yeah." He goes, "Yeah, man, you played Geoffrey, the drug dealer, right?" I go, "Yeah." He goes, "What's your name, man?" I go, "Geoffrey." And he goes, "Oh, I see it," because it's written for me. And to this day, to Irvin's credit, anytime I've ever run into him, he remembers my name. And to me that was always like, wow, Magic John, Mom, Magic. And I was really young, so I said, "Mom, Magic Johnson knew who I was." So that was probably my biggest fanboy moment.
That's a great story.
Yeah,
that's one of my favorite stories that I've heard on this show, man.
It was fun. And there was another time where same thing. We were with him. Irvin was involved. There was this very hipster lunch place, like a lot of CAA and ICM and bigger agents had lunches at. And so I had a writing partner at the time named Stephen Kay, and he's actually showrunner of Yellowstone now. But we were writing, and we were very young hipster writers, and we were having this lunch with this agent, big agency agent, and he was really totally not into us. We could just tell that he just thought, he thought he was way above us. Why am I bothering with having this lunch? Da, 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 da. And into the restaurant walks Magic Johnson again. And it was just so great. So he walks back to the table, walks by the table and goes, I go, hey, Irvin, like that. He looks and goes, Geoffrey, how are you, man? Blah, 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 blah. And I kicked my partner under the table and just like, we could just see the the astonished look on this guy's face. Like, he knows you? It's just like, yeah, it was great. Great comeuppance. So,
that's fantastic. I want to say thank you for coming on and chatting with me. Before we go, let's give some plugs where folks can find you on the social medias, and of course Workers Actor Studio.
Sure. I'm old school, so my social media. I'm actually talking today about probably having to hire somebody for the social media. You can follow me on Instagram at Geoffrey_Blake. At Geoffrey, it's GEOFFREY, like the giraffe. At Geoffrey_Blake. That's Instagram. Twitter, I believe, is at Jeff Blake, GEOFFBLAKE4. And my studio website is Working Actors Studio. That's 2 S's, so WORKINGSSTUDIO studio.org. You can always, I'm one of those guys. You can even actually email me, blakeshq@gmail.com. If you're looking to take classes, that's where to find me. And you, Mike Beasley, just so you know, in your travels that you're so big in the con world, I am openly looking for, some con representation. I have one called Mobile Moniker, but we seem to have outgrown each other a little bit. You can post, I don't care. So if you're traveling in that world and you know some of those con reps who, I got great stuff. I got Star Trek. I got Ferngully. I got DC Legends tomorrow. I got all that stuff, and that people want to meet and sign. So, tell your con friends who run the cons. I'd be happy to come down and do a panel as well.
Absolutely. Got quite a few that watch this show.
Great. Well, here I am, guys. Now you know how to reach me.
All right. Any last words before we wrap up?
No. It was nice meeting you, young man. If you're an actor and you want to be an actor, and that is what you desire to do, do not let anybody say that you cannot be the actor you can be. Yes, you can. If you say that, you don't say you're an aspiring actor, say you want to be an actor. If acting is what your dream is and what you want to do, you are an actor. So become the actor that you want to be. Don't let anybody say no. Don't let anybody be a naysayer. It is a very proud, a very, very, very real art. It is also a very proud and career. Do not let anybody belittle you. What we do is important, and we make people laugh. We make people cry. We make people feel. Sometimes we actually make change in the world, and we certainly were a big part of people's lives when they were locked in a room for 2 years during a pandemic. So be an actor that you can be. Yes, you can. Be it, live it, do it.
That's such great advice. You hear that, Jason Cade? I have a friend who just moved out to California to pursue his dream. So, Jason, I know you're watching this.
Hit me up, Jason. I'll guide you and mentor you in a way that you can make your dream come true. Don't listen to any of your parents either. They're all naysayers.
All right, Geoffrey, thank you so much for hanging out with me. And thank you, everybody, for watching on YouTube, watching or listening on wherever you're listening to your podcast. Don't forget, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button. But most importantly, tell your friends, and we will see you next week.
Thank you, Milo Beasley. Thank you all out there, and live your dream. Bye.